Today I want to talk about relating and just a few thoughts or realizations I had recently in the way I relate to other people and communication. So I tried to organize my thoughts and I wrote my notes. It's still very chaotic, but hopefully it will make sense. Okay, first I found myself in situations where I want to get along or I want to be friend with someone for some reason, and then I realize actually I can't relate to that person, and I get confused because I'm like, oh, it's not what I expected. And sometimes it's like a build up of kind of idealist image I can have of people, especially when you have a sort of online or parasocial, distant relation, a way like you communicate but you haven't met. And I think that image I had, or that conviction I had that we should we should become friends, got in the way of actually getting closer. For one, it could be because it's pressuring the other person to open up more than they are willing to. But it's also for me, I was not aware that much of how much people we have sometimes very different mental models and different ways of sense making, and that sometimes it's just so hard to understand why someone's experience, and if they're not willing to share their perspective, there's no point into trying to forcefully get into their shoes or to somehow guess or read their mind. It just doesn't work. And instead of and I realized that in trying to do that, trying to understand someone else's perspective or experience, I was completely erasing my own way of understanding of experiencing that current same situation. And so instead of doing that, I realized it's better to drop it, stop having some sort of weird expectations about people you don't know. Just be open for them to show up how much they want to show up. But yeah, there was something that was forceful in that and not honest. Because then I was trying to almost do some sort of emotional processing for someone else, and it's not even the way they would experience it. It's just my own projection of how I would experience to be in their place. So yeah, I think it's just fine to accept we just don't know much about other people, even if we've hanged around, been together for a long time. Sometimes we just don't know, and I think it's fine to admit that, and it's also fine to be I can't relate to your experience actually. I'm having a very different experience, and it's we are in the same place, but everything is different, and we are different people, and we experience things differently. And so instead of being I want to understand, let me help you, whatever, just no, drop it. You can just sit with that, and yeah, let time do its thing, and that you don't have to, maybe you don't have to be friend with that person after all. And it's always you can always be nice, but yeah, relationships should not be forced. So that was one of the first thing I kind of noticed. The other one was that I tend to get very stuck on my first impression of people, and usually because they're like nice to me, and I'm like, wow, the nicest person, or like, why? I just put much more meaning into it than they do, because they're just like doing something nice. It doesn't mean much. For me, it's like, wow, they saved my life, and then after that, I did that a lot in the past, where because someone did something good or like had a good impact in my life, I was like, I owe them everything. Even to the point that when they completely mistreated me or like betrayed me, I would still hold on to that first good impression. And I realized that I'm not updating my impression of people according to what they do, like actual behaviors. And people change, and it's like I was constantly trying to connect with the past version of people, not the present version. And because I realized that now it's much more, and I noticed that my kind of, I don't know, sometimes it can be very judgmental when you perceive someone and you're like, oh, we don't vibe. Or it's the opposite, whoa, someone that seems like we could get along very well or something. And I might be uncomfortable with someone at first time we met, and for some reason, in a different context, it's like actually, oh, that's actually, I enjoy being around that person, and it's kind of surprising. And instead of being like, oh, but was I wrong then or am I wrong now? It's not like either or, it's like, no, it's everything kind of comes together, and it's more detailed because people are complex and there's always different context, and we also move across time, and there's always things happening in our lives, and it can be big events, it can be small things, it could be a new person in your lives that makes us different, it could be the weather. There's so many reasons why we're different in different moments or context. And so I try to not get stuck on those impressions, either they're positive or negative. Now I realize I'm much more flexible. I don't need people to be like that rock of like something completely infallible or like never changing that I can trust to never change. It's like, no, people change. It's always in motion. And I have to adapt and update kind of my impression or like the image I have of people, so that is closer to the truth and not just something in my mind. And it's helping me to be detached with that, with those kind of, sometimes when I have maybe a bad impression, now I'm more able to step back and be like, oh, maybe they had a shitty day. Things happen sometimes that are very unrelated to like how you perceived them. What am I saying? Anyway, it's like you can take on someone's energy in a negative way, but it was not related to you. It was just something before, whatever. So yeah, I try not get stuck on that. Either someone is being nice or someone is being a bit not present or like angsty or like not comfortable to be around. Whatever the case is, like I can update, and it's like I don't feel so much of a need that people have to be consistent in the way they make me feel. It's like sometimes we can argue, we can have fun, everything is kind of good actually, and there's no wrong. That's how I feel. And I think it relates to the way I give my trust. So I think in the past it was very that kind of all or nothing, because people are either positive or negative or something, and it's like, oh, well, if you're nice to me, I have to trust you. I felt almost like I'm obliged to trust. It's like a sort of duty or like respectful thing to do if someone is nice to you, is to trust them or something. And I realized it's very bad to do that. And now, the same way that I can relate and adapt to like moods. It's like people have moods, you know, and I have my own moods too, and I don't have. I should not neglect my own state because I'm trying to like relate or like empathize too much. Maybe I can be just in my own experience, and I can share that, and I can be myself and be truthful to myself. But I don't have to overstep and try to interpret someone's experience. And with trust, it's like doesn't really depend on how much the person is meaning well, or like they are very available. Maybe they can hold space for me to express myself. They're open, but that it's not like how it works. It's not like you can trust me. It's actually no. I will trust you if I feel safe, and you don't get to decide if I'm feeling safe. I'm the one who knows who if I feel safe or not, and it's maybe the situation is actually safe in a very like from a neutral point of view, but I get to decide how much I open myself or not, and if I don't want to trust, I can't be coerced into trusting. And that also means it can vary with the same person. It could be that in one specific context I felt very safe to open up and trust that person, and in a different context I felt like no, I don't want to show more of myself in here in that moment. And it's fine, and there's no sense of feeling guilty that oh, I know I should trust you but I can't. The question is not that whether the person is worthy of trust. The question is, do I feel safe? And I think it relates also to a way where I also tended to outsource my sense of safety in other people. And now I don't need to do that. So I don't have to overtrust or like leave it to other people to figure out my situation in a way. What else? I think it's already 12 minutes. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the conclusion of it, is that I trust when I choose to, and it's based on context, not just that there is people I can trust and people I can't trust. I could trust someone I barely just met for some reason with a specific thing or context or like experience, but doesn't mean I trust them with everything. Like it's very modulable. Like there's a lot of parameters, and I can't force people to open up to me, even if I feel like we would get along very well. People sometimes wall up, and I think there's maybe good reasons for that. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and everyone should have a right to keep their boundaries. So now, instead of focusing on like trying to get close to someone, I'm more focusing on am I feeling fully my own experience, or am I trying to experience someone else? So I focus on being myself and experiencing my own moment, my own present. And yeah, there's no coercion about trusting, or like you should trust me, or like you can trust me, or like you have to open up. Yeah, and that's it, I think, about my thoughts. Maybe there is also actually no, there's nothing else. I don't know. Yeah, it all requires just patience more than force or like trying to make it work, or like I think what really I felt like very free is that actually I don't need any, I don't have expectation about outcomes when I meet new people of what the relationship should be. It just happens, and when you relate to someone, it's very instant. It's like, yeah, we speak the same language. We don't have to work around too much. But I think it's also good that with some people we get each other and it's like talking the same language, and with other people, because we have a different way of making sense, we have, maybe we need more communication to maybe translate or like try to find a common language to speak about our experiences. So it's never like completely, impossible. But yeah, we all have some sort of background and life experience. So it's like, I don't think it can be forced. Yeah, anyway. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you later.